Jeremy Hunt's claim this morning that we won't take risks, that this is terribly important, and we will do everything we can to deal with the aerated concrete in schools and the 104 schools that have closed. And he says that the majority of schools where this it has been found can still continue, but they have to work around the classrooms with RAAC concrete embedded in them. Well, the problem is that we've known about this RAAC problem for years. And the NHS has got a system in place there where it's going to eradicate RAAC by 2035. So what makes it so pressing that schools need to close 1 week or so before the autumn term begins? What makes that so pressing that this couldn't have been managed at the beginning of the summer holidays? It couldn't have been managed in advance. What makes it so pressing that it has to be done now? And why do these 104 schools in particular suddenly become dangerous when they weren't dangerous 2 weeks ago? And that is something I must say I simply do not understand. It beggars all belief. It's about a complete lack of forward planning. It's about a complete lack of control. It's about a knee-jerk project fear. And it's evident in almost every part of our government management. It's government by anxiety. And that isn't strong leadership. That's panic. That's panic. And simply because there are systems that have been tried and in place for remote learning. The remote learning that we've got in place, incidentally, is wrong. And I worked on remote learning systems with colleagues in Russia, and we were setting up a new way of approaching teaching, both in schools and in universities, which would involve remote learning techniques. But we were very clear that the video footage, the camera footage, the Zoom or various other methods. What is it? The Google system, the Teams. That's it. Teams. I hate Teams. All these systems that were in place. We need to make sure that they're being used for providing information, because that's what they're best used for the face-to-face interaction with teachers. Teachers in the classroom need to become mentors. And that's something that I think a lot of teachers are terrified by. Teachers feel that they are the source of information. Well, actually, they need to they need to wake up and smell the roses, because the reality is students can get that information from the internet. Students are quicker at all ages about getting information than teachers. And I remember going into a school recently where I was head of English, and I was always amused that there would be one student in the class who was ahead of the information that I was producing for whatever topic we were covering. And I thought, well, good on you, really. You're just simply researching. And what a teacher needs to do is to manage the students' expectations, and perhaps, frankly, to be giving them the equivalent of a reading list. Find this information, and we can look for the information on our interface on our computer, where we have programs to give you information about this subject, that subject, and so on. But I think teachers are rather worried that if we move down this route, they're going to be redundant. They're not going to be redundant at all. They just simply have to do a slightly different job, and I think a more valuable job. So rather than thinking of all students being processed through a factory, we're thinking far more of education individually tailored to a student's needs and capabilities. And a teacher managing a class of 21, 31, even 41 students would have an ability, therefore, to know the needs, capabilities of the students in her or his class, and to help the students realize their educational potential. But that's one thing. And unfortunately, what we found in COVID was when teachers were given access to Zoom and remote learning, they literally reproduced the lesson that they've just given on air. And they were surprised by how boring it was. Even when you give a student a camera, and you have 3 or 4 students in the class, and 1 or 2 students online. The students online are easily bored. Why? Because the stuff that you learn online, you learn it quicker. You process faster because you're slightly more engaged. So inevitably, as a teacher, if you're teaching online, you go through your material significantly faster. So you're preparing probably twice as much material as you would normally prepare for a class, for a face-to-face class. That certainly is my experience. It's then very easy to miss what students are picking up. So what did a student learn? That's harder to assess on the other end of a camera. And that's where teachers in the classroom, the mentors, come in so handy. And it's not something that should be fobbed off to classroom assistants. It's something that really requires focused attention and knowledge and a keen sense of where students are going. Anyway, as I say, the main point of today's topic is Jeremy Hunt's appalling sort of blasé approach to RAAC. And why didn't he know earlier? Why didn't the government do something earlier? Why is it doing something just before school begins? At the same time, why is the government taking over accommodation in Huddersfield, for example, just before term begins, and then putting migrants in that accommodation? It's gesture politics to anger the local population, to irritate students, maybe because the government realizes that students broadly are very positive about migrants. Maybe this will get them to sneer at them. Maybe this will change the temperature. Maybe this will make them feel like they are involved. And it's nasty politics. It's nasty, lazy politics, and we need to get over that.